Let's do a mic check. Test mic. This is what we do before doing the vlog. But here we are. So I would like to apologize in advance if you could hear the kids in the background. I have my eldest here today, so it's just gonna be everywhere, and I don't want to end the fun that they have tonight. So I'll try my best to make this vlog. I don't know. But yeah. Hello everyone. It's the time of the month again when we talk about my recent reads. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jelaine, and if you're coming back or returning, thank you so much for your amazing support. So, in today's video, I'm diving into the two books I read in April, and let me tell you, they couldn't be more different. One made me cry, reflect on life, and think every decision I've ever made, which is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. The other threw me into a deadly vampire tournament filled with slow burn romance and betrayal, which is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. So, whether you're into emotional reads, spicy fantasy, or a bit of both, you're in for a ride. Sad to say, we don't have any reading statistics this month since I didn't get to read as much. But that's okay. We're still talking about two pretty intense stories. But just a quick warning, this review might contain some spoilers. So if you're someone like me who doesn't mind a few spoilers, stay and keep watching. But if you're the type who prefers going in blind, this video might not be for you, so watch at your own risk. So let's stop talking and let's get right into the book reviews, shall we? In no particular order, I will guys give you the book's book tropes, quick summary, star rating, my thoughts about the book, and if I have any favorite quotes or phrase in the book, I will also give you guys that at the end of the book review. But first, let's go ahead and talk about The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And these are the book's book trope. It's magical realism, second chances, alternate realities, self discovery, mental health representation, redemption arc, and a subtle found family vibes in this book. And I gave it 5 stars. So let me guys give you a quick summary of the book before we talk about my thoughts and why I gave it 5 stars. These books follow Nora Seed, who feels like she's letting everyone down, even thinking she disappointed her own cat. In a moment of despair, she decides to end her life, not knowing that between life and death is the Midnight Library, a place where you can explore different lives, picking the one you desire most and staying there as long as you want. As Nora tries out these alternate lives, she realized that no matter how good, normal, or even bad they are, none of them fully satisfy her. As time runs out, she's faced with a choice. With so many possibilities, which life is the best one to live? That's the biggest question in this book. And I think that is one of the reasons why I fell in love with this book, especially after reading the synopsis at the back. I know I don't usually do that, but this time I gave it a try before diving into the story. I initially thought this was a time travel story, but it turned out to be something completely different. So, with that being said, I do want to start with a content warning. So, this book deals with suicide. So, please read it with care if that's a sensitive topic for you. But with that all being said, it's a powerful read, an eye opening book, emotional, and incredibly thought provoking. So, what I can say about Nora Seed is she is indeed relatable in many ways. From the very beginning, her characters feels like heartbroken yet full of dreams as described in the book. Honestly, I didn't think she would go through with her plan to take her own life, but when she did, it was heartbreaking. And the writing in the book adds, the emotion of being heartbroken after she took her own life. However, when she enters the library, I realized that this is her interpretation of limbo or purgatory. And as she explores all her other life possibilities, I immediately knew she wouldn't find a life where she truly wanted to stay, because even though it was her, it wasn't her, if that makes sense. Although her character and mindset evolved throughout the story, it made me feel sad and realize that sometimes we only understand how precious life is when we're on the brink of losing it. So, the Midnight Library isn't very strict when it comes to its rules. You can explore all the life possibilities you have, so dream big. However, these possibilities are based on decisions you might have made in your root life. If you chose one of these lives, some things in that reality may or may not align with your expectations. So, another rule in the Midnight Library is that if you felt disappointed in the life you're exploring, you'll return to the Midnight Library. But if you decide to stay in that life, your memories of the library will begin to blur and everything will fall into place. However, if you die in that life, you'll die in your root life as well, and vice versa. Because after all, it's still you, just in a different reality. And as I predicted in this book, she was not able to find a life where she'll want to stay. As I continue reading, I noticed that Nora feels sad no matter how perfect the life she enters. In one life, her best friend died. In another, her brother is gone. And even when she finds a seemingly perfect life, she feels she feels like she's stealing it from another version of herself. She's never really content. And after living through countless possible lives, she realizes that happiness still escapes her. In the end, she comes to understand that it's not the people around her she's disappointed, it's herself. Because she was the one who made those decisions in the first place. So, with me spoiling the book, which I really do apologize for, all I can say is that this story opened my eyes to a lot of things. And one of the biggest lessons it taught me is that no matter how bad my decisions are or what their outcomes may be, they're still mine. And that means I should live my life fully, not waste it worrying about things I can't control, but focus on what I can. So that's my thoughts about the book. Although it felt a little like of a self-help book, but I genuinely enjoyed it, and I will recommend it to anyone who wants to read it. But again, please be mindful with the warning, because it's there's a suicide in this book. So again, if that is a topic that is sensitive for you, please read it with caution. But that's a 5-star read for me. And I don't have a favorite phrase or quote in this book because it's too many to mention. If I'm going to mention all of that, it's gonna take forever. And I've already secured my book. So, yeah. So, the next book that we're going to talk about is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And the book tropes of this book are enemies to lovers, deadly competition slash tournament slash the Hunger Game vibes, vampire romance, found family slash loyalty conflicts, morally gray characters, slow burn romance, and it's everyone's favorite, forced proximity. And I gave this book 3 stars, and let's go ahead and talk about it in a while. But here's a quick summary of the book. So the book follows Aurea, a human, was adopted by Vincent, a vampire and the king of House Hyoj. Growing up, Aurea knew that even though her father ruled the vampires, she would always be seen as prey in a world full of powerful, bloodthirsty immortals. Haunted by the loss of her human family, who she believes were killed by the Rishan, Aurea begs Vincent to turn her into a vampire, but he refuses, warning her that the turning process is extremely dangerous and most don't survive it. So instead, he tells her about Nyaxia, the goddess of death, who can grant a wish like hers, but only if Aurea wins the Kajari. This is a deadly tournament held every 100 years, offers the winner one wish granted by the goddess herself. Determined to give Aurea a fighting chance, Vincent trains her from a young age to survive and win. And when the tournament finally arrives, Aurea, still the only human among deadly vampires, knows her odds are slim. So to survive, she forms an alliance with Rain. Dangerous, mysterious, and yes, very hot indeed. Their relationship is built on necessity. But as the tournament goes on, something deeper starts to grow between them. Allies become friends, enemies become something more, and Aurea soon finds herself torn between survival, loyalty, and a love she never expected. So that's the quick summary. Now here's my thoughts and why I gave it 3 stars. So when the rules for the Kajari were mentioned in the book, I immediately thought of the Hunger Games meets Twilight, but with bat wings. Big feathery bat wings and very, very powerful vampires. And I'm not gonna lie, I found the beginning pretty boring. So I honestly can't remember much of the first part of the book. The world building was also quite confusing for me at first. Don't get me wrong, I love a slow burn, richly built world, but the first few chapters left me a bit lost. So as I kept reading, things started to make more sense, and I began to understand who's who and what's what. With that being said, there were still moments that confused me, especially when certain characters popped up without much introduction early on. And then realization hit me. Vincent sent Aurea to a deadly tournament as the only human instead of turning her into a vampire because either way, her chances of surviving were incredibly slim. So that part was really confusing and I don't know what's happening there. But I'd say that yes, it might be confusing and a bit boring at the beginning, but stick with it and you'll start to get the story and understand what's going on. I think this is, pretty common with fantasy books, right? Honestly, that's one of the reasons I'm hesitant to dive into some fantasy books. World building can be overwhelming. But I like Carissa Broadbent's writing because it's not overly complicated. And also, I just wanted to, put it out there that I learned a new word because of this book. The word is blase, which means bored or unimpressed. I've got a few situations in mind where I am going to use that word, so stay tuned. I don't know. But I will give this book 2 or 3 chili peppers. There are definitely a couple of spicy scenes, but not too many. The focus is more on the tournament than the romance, so it's not packed with heat. It's like the Hunger Games vibes. And with all that being said, I really enjoyed the Dracula-esque elements in the story. Like when a vampire bites you, the venom makes you feel more aroused than in pain. It's an interesting twist, and the vampires are described as almost perfect, which makes sense because I think that's part of how they lure their prey. But here's the thing. While the vampire have wings, I'm still a bit confused about how that ties into their luring abilities. It's a little unclear, honestly. So I don't know how they get their food here, but whatever. Let's move on and let's talk about the characters of the book. So, in all honesty, I do hate Aurea and Rain because of the things they did at the end of the book. I think I've already spoiled enough about this book. But with all that being said, I'm not gonna lie, I never predicted many of the things that happened in this book. However, I do have a prediction about Aurea and Vincent's relationship and why Vincent was so attached to Aurea, even though she was a human. But we do have a love hate relationship with the main characters of this book. At first, I love them and now I hate them. I don't know how love hate relationship works. The last conversation between Aurea and Ibrahim. It's just so sad that his character is already broken and then he was so broken. He was destroyed at the end of this book. So that made me sad. I just wish he had, a better purpose in this book rather than that. But overall, I kind of enjoyed this one, but it was confusing at first. Maybe because of the world building. But I'll be honest, it ended on a cliffhanger. And while this book isn't my favorite due to how confusing the ending is, it's still okay. And would I recommend it? Honestly, it's a 50-50 for me. But I'd say try it for yourself. So, those are the books I read last April. And I was busy last April. And right now, I am reading two books. For some reasons, I become a mood reader accidentally. But I'm also making a vlog for that. So, stay tuned. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want more book reviews or reading wrap up, I will go ahead and put the link on my description box below so you can watch my other book reviews or other book reading wrap up, or maybe I can help you decide your next read. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and share and subscribe to my channel. So, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.